Number 2 is pretty straightforward. Number 3 is known as just intention. Right? Number 3 is just intention. And with respect to just intention, the intent for going to war has to be just. Now, personally, in my own academic career, I'm spending quite a bit of time looking at number 3. Right? This is of all the 6 criteria for going to war, and me being employed in sort of living the life of a peacemaker, of a peace builder. I think that this is the most problematic, right? A just intent. Because the question becomes, obviously, how do you demonstrate intent, right? Intentionality is a very, very complicated thing to discuss. With respect to just war, it makes sense to talk about a just cause, right? If I am feeling that I'm being attacked and I need to protect myself, well, I'll use self-defense, no problem. If a country is developing capabilities to destroy me, I might attack them before they attack me. I think that's a little problematic, but okay, no problem. Also, if I exist within a nation and they have a bureaucracy in place, they have institutional structure in place, then I need to make sure that I go through the proper authority, the proper channel prior to engaging in war. No problem. But just intent, right? How do you determine intent, right? How can you show intent? And personally speaking, I don't think anyone's successfully done this yet. And the example that I always use is the following. Imagine, especially you peacemakers that are watching this, imagine that we have a conflict, right? I have a conflict with Mary. Right? So 2 people have a conflict. Here I am, and here Mary is, right? And we'll say that there's a fly. This little asterisk will be a fly. There's a fly, and the fly is buzzing around the room and going all over, and the fly lands on Mary, right? So now, here's the fly, it's landed on Mary. And I say, I see that the fly has landed on Mary. I can use this opportunity to inflict pain on Mary and have her not be upset with me. So I wait, I watch, the fly lands finally on Mary. As soon as the fly lands on Mary, I raise my hand, whack, smack, I hit Mary. Mary's like, oh, you hit me so hard, why did you do that? And I say, oh look, I killed a fly that was on your shirt. There was a fly there, so I killed the fly. And she looks down and she verifies. She's like, oh yeah, you did, but man, that really hurt. Why'd you have to hit me so hard? They say, oh no, I was just trying to get the fly. I'm sorry if it hurt. What you should be able to see in that example is that I intended actually to harm her. Right? My intent was actually to harm her. She has no access to my intent. Right? My intent is something that exists within my mind. And personally, when I say mind, I mean like my biological brain, right? It's not something that I can disclose, right? So my intent exists within my mind, and she has no access to the contents of my mind, so she just has to take my word for it. Oh, well, oh, thanks, Jason, for killing the fly, but next time, just don't hit me so hard. I think that becomes problematic because with respect to, and I always tell my students, don't critique something while you're presenting it. So I apologize for critiquing it while I present it. But just intention is, I have the most problem with a just intent. But you get the idea, right? Your intentions for going to war have to be just. You can't be engaging in battle to rape and plunder, to extort, to pillage the nation, right? That can't be the real motivation for going to war, because then it will be unjust. If it is self-defense, if you're going through proper channels, so on, if it's the only way of de-escalating the violence, then okay. But I do have a problem with just intent, but I just want to make sure that I explain that a little bit. Okay. So just intent is number 3. Number 4 is a good possibility. Possibility. A good possibility for military success. Right? Good possibility for military success. What you want to do is, if you are let's say the commander-in-chief, right, or you're a very high-ranking general, or you're a military analyst, which to be honest with you, after my education career, I might end up doing, but that's neither here nor there. If you're an analyst of conflict, you have to make sure that there's good possibility for military success. Perfect example of failure with respect to just war theory, and number 4, lots and lots of literature on it, is Vietnam War, right? Vietnam War, there was an overestimation of American capabilities in Vietnam on the ground, and an underestimation of indigenous populations, right? The Vietnamese people and their militia, right? We underestimated how powerful their forces were. We overestimated how powerful our military forces were, and consequently, it led to a very, very bloody battle. And many people view, if not every person views, the Vietnam War in most respects as a failure. Right? It was something that we didn't win. I would argue that one of the reasons that the Vietnam War didn't turn out the way it could have turned out was because a failure to recognize a good possibility for military success. There are a lot of criteria that go into this. It's far too long. This lecture would be like 2.5 hours long if I were to go into all the different analytical criteria for assessment. But you want to be able to look at troop size, you want to be able to look at the geography, the topography, you want to be able to look at language barriers and communication problems, and so on and so on and so on. All of these need to be factored into an account prior to going to war, right? So you have to make sure that in engaging in battle, there is a possibility. Both sides now need to be doing this, right? Which is what's interesting, right? Nation A needs to think we have a good military possibility for winning, and Nation B needs to think we have a good possibility for winning, and then the battle, right? And then the determination is made. It doesn't make sense to go to war. You can imagine, on a very sort of general sense, prior to the Super Bowl, both teams believe that they are equally capable of winning the game, right? If the game is completely mismatched, right? If there isn't a belief that we can actually engage in this battle and win, then usually what will happen is the superpower, or the nation with the most military might, which is typically the superpower, will be able to prevent battle because the aggressor will sort of back off, right? The aggressor will recognize, look, Nation B, we don't have as much power as the other nation. There isn't a good possibility that we'll win this battle, and thus they'll back off. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 5 is proportionality. 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 And with respect to proportionality, this actually ties into my discussion on John Stuart Mills, right? We have to make sure in discussing proportionality that the ends justify the means, right? We have to make sure that and actually it's the means rather, the means are justified by the end. In discussion of proportionality, we have to make the mean, and these are the things that are implemented during the war, justifies the end, right? The consequence. And what does that actually mean?